Hi everyone and welcome to Barefoot TV and Podcast Show. I'm your host, Leanne, the Barefoot Medium. I'm an international medium who is absolutely blessed to act as the bridge between you and your loved ones who've passed over. I'm a twin flame who loves supporting people to step into conscious relationships and sacred union with self, partner and the divine, as well as to embrace their sacred path and be of service in whatever way fits and feels right. I bring together my spiritual gifts with over 20 years of professional experience, as well as spiritual practices from the indigenous Kogi people in Colombia, South America, to support people in my transformational coaching programs and look into the mirror of their soul and create powerful shifts and changes so that they can confidently manifest what their soul needs, wants, and desires. So kick off your shoes, relax, and enjoy this month's episode of Barefoot TV and Podcast Show, where I am joined by the amazing Julie Cardillo to discuss being real and vulnerable in relationships. Now, Julie is a Zen Tai Shiatsu therapist and educator, a Zen Tai Flow yoga facilitator, an empowerment coach, and a sister circle facilitator who provides a space for her clients to feel supported, step into their strength, and connect with their inner wisdom so they can change the rhythm of their vibration, which creates powerful, positive changes that ripple out in all areas of their life. Welcome, Julie.
Hello, thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And, I want to talk to you a little bit about relationships, being real and being vulnerable. But first, can you share with people a little bit more about who you are and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing?
Okay, how did I come to be doing the work that I was doing? I guess I had a choice whether to stay in corporate and doing the same type of work, or to follow what was being put in front of me, I guess. So I moved from overseas, from London, Ireland, back to Australia a few years ago, and a fair few years ago now. And I was still working in the city in corporate, moved to the Sunshine Coast, then found myself, I was still in a suit, wearing a suit to work, and I was like, I don't know whether this is this is for me. So I was sitting at Yandina in the markets, and I looked up and there was this course to start. It was Zen Tai Shiatsu. And at this stage, I was like, okay, I guess I'll go and see what this is. So I phoned Gwyn, and he was like, oh, we're full. I don't know whether you can make it. And then he stopped and there was this big pause, and he was like, yes, you are to come to this. I've made room for you. And I think there was only 6 people or something, because he'd only was just starting out his own kind of classes then as well, teaching the Zen Tai Shiatsu. So I went out there, and it was just a day of barefoot, being out in nature at Nindri, makeshift, sauna and spa and little teepee, and it was just so rustic and very much similar to how I grew up, basically. So I guess there was that childhood and childlike innocence that popped back out as soon as you were like in that whole environment, which continued because I then there was yoga in there as well as the Thai massage. So then I was deciding whether I was going to do that. I remember coming home and saying, that's it, that's what I'm going to do. And then I went down a little bit more of the corporate path, and then I was kind of torn in between of where I actually wanted to be and who was I supposed to be. And there was this whole tug of war of one part of me wanting to be like nice and flowy and easy, and then there was also the other side of me which was very structured, and this is how things have to go. And I guess I just had an aha moment then. That was the feminine and the masculine in me going, pulling me in either direction. So once I did step out.
I really want to kind of pause you there, because I have noticed that you had that insight, and I think it's really important given the topic we're talking about today is, being real and vulnerable, and we both wanted to make this more like a conversation that flowed a little bit. So, thank you for showing and witnessing what that insight looks like in reality. When we talk things through, we can sometimes hear ourselves say it. And, I love that, everyone has that experience of, here's what I really want to be doing, right? Here's where I'm drawn, and here's where I flow, and here's where I feel playful and joyful and all of that, and free. And here's my responsibility and my, how I've got to bring in income to be able to meet my other responsibilities and obligations, which, is the feminine and masculine. So I love that you saw that. And we have to get real about life is about that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that we all have that real, and I hear people talk about your authentic self, be your authentic self, but what's often taught with that is people actually putting on a mask of, here's what I'm meant to be, and I'll play that role, rather than embracing, the feminine, flowy side of ourselves, or the structured, logical, organized part, which you and I both have.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that I step into those both. Sometimes it feels that when I'm in my mind, I'm definitely in that masculine, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. How am I going to do that? I need to do this first, this, before I can actually get to that. And then when I'm in my feminine, there's just like shit everywhere. I'm like, hey, let's go. Hey, why can't we do that? We can do everything that we want to do. It's like, just flow with it, baby. And so then there's that whole tug of war there as well. Once you get back into I guess the shooting of the arrow, the drawing back, and it's like, well, where are we going to go next? So that's what you need. You need to have that masculine behind. And I guess that's where that comes in for me, is working with the elements. So that's very wood element. So it's springtime now. So that's where all the new beginnings and stuff are coming through. So that's kind of where that goes as well.
And I think it's really important for listeners and viewers to know that, we've all got that masculine and feminine energy, and to get real about the fact that we do, and to accept it, and to embrace it, and to, like you said, got shit everywhere, and, going with the flow, and I'm really not organized, and don't want to have responsibility, and I can't be bothered with that, or whatever it might be, right? It's okay to have that, and to then bring in that masculine element of who we are, where with the logic, the organizing, the planning, the get shit done, right? And I love, I love the masculine. I can be a little bit sometimes too in my masculine, which is why I love doing my spiritual work, because that's in my flow and my feminine. And it's about finding that balance and allowing them to work together, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I guess that's when it comes into with the Zen Tai part of that for me, it's very flowy, and it's my meditation. It's like my movement meditation for myself. So, but it's also so I'm giving to you, yet I'm receiving. So there's the feminine flow, but there is also still a masculine side to that as well, because it's quite physical for me, but it's also, I then sometimes go into my mind of this gesture is going to work really well for this part, for this person's body. And then I'll go back into my own flow in my intuitive side. And so it's just weaving in and throughout the whole session. Then, so in saying that, the Zen Tai chose me. Like everything that has happened in the last few years has been kind of like a knock on my door to say, okay, well, how about this? And the same with the sister circles, where if you would have said to me like years ago that I would be holding sister circles or helping facilitate in this way, I would have said, oh, bollocks, there is no way that I would be doing that. And now it's just one of the most enriching and beautiful things that I think I've ever done, being able to sit in circle regardless of, whether it be women or men. I've sat in circle with both, and what comes up and through in just that community and active listening. So that's, it's pretty amazing. Some of I don't know, I wouldn't even call them skills. What would you call them?
Like it's kind of skills, because when we develop them and practice, some of them are innate, right? And we still need to hone them. So they're a skill that needs practicing and developing, and that sort of thing. So I love how you bring in that flow, first of all, between that masculine and feminine. And I'll bring it back to another space in a minute, but for those who are watching or listening who might be interested in the spiritual, whether it's through the bodywork stuff that Jules does, or through working with your intuition and psychic reads, or even mediumship, like I'm an academic. I worked at universities, and I taught at universities for 20 years. I developed curriculum and was in senior management and all of that. So hello, masculine logic brain and all of that stuff, right? Who would have thought that that knock on the door, or that pathway that came at 2:00 one morning, where Spirit knocked on the door and went, write your resignation letter. And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels good. No idea what I was going to do, that I'd end up communicating and connecting with loved ones who've passed over. And, if we get real about that, it's, I talk to dead people.
I love it when you say that.
And I say that with so much respect, because, and the funny, I want to share a brief story in amongst this, if I can. Jules knows this, but my family last week had a loved one who passed over. And what was really interesting was that I had to send something to the lady who ran the ceremony. I've forgotten what you call them in this moment. The celebrant, thank you. I had to send an email to the celebrant and the funeral home for my family. And I forgot and sent it from my business email, which was the Barefoot Medium. And I get to the service, and the celebrant came over and she said to me, oh my God, you're the Barefoot Medium. And I was like, oh, not really the appropriate place to be doing this, but yep. I'm standing at a funeral home for a funeral and I talk to dead people. It was kind of a bit ironic. And my aunt was having a good giggle about it as well. So, but here's the thing, that's what I do. And if you put it in a real context, that's what I do. And, you know, that involves, and where I was getting to with that is that flow of the masculine and feminine, because you've got to be in your heart space, which is that beautiful feminine nurturing energy to hold space, which is what you do in sister circles, for someone else's grief and loss or their story that they're sharing with you, and to then be able to, you know, deliver that information or knowledge or wisdom or whatever comes in is an action which uses that masculine energy. So whether we're conscious of it or not, we're always working with the feminine and masculine. And it's about bringing those into unity and into connection with each other and into oneness. So I love how you bring that in, because it's really important that people know that you have to be able to work with both.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand, I guess that would be more to the point, that, okay, so we've got masculine and we've got feminine. So we've got males and females and that's it. Like, a lot of people don't know that we do have both aspects in ourselves. And then also a lot of people will get, like, they'll get the piss taken out of them if they're too feminine or if they're too masculine. You look at, if a female's too masculine, oh, she's abrupt and bossy and, you know, so all of that, whereas she's actually just mirroring their masculinity depending on where that's coming from. And then the vice versa. Like, so there's, yeah, so I guess that would be healthy and unhealthy.
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
And so, you know, it's kind of, and I like how you brought in the fact that it's a skill, you know, and that brings in relationships, right? Because, you know, when in our lives do we get taught about how to relate and how to be in relationship? And it is a skill, because, and we can do that really well, or we can do that really shit. You know, and it can be really healthy or it can be really unhealthy because of not having either the knowledge, the wisdom, or the skills to be able to do something differently.
Yeah. And that's, do you know, and for children watching that, because they watch everything as well. So with you saying that it's a skill, and do we get taught to in relationships, like, so they're learning from everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And then is it up to them to then know how to use that, or is it up to us? So do you know, like,
well, and here's the thing, I think that, and you and I have done some work around, you know, relationships and that, you know, embracing changes and shifts and transformation within relationships. We've both done that personally, and we both do that with clients as well. Here's the thing, we have to do it for ourselves first. We have to come back to, we were those kids that witnessed and watched and learnt and picked up, you know, the thoughts, the emotions, the beliefs, the patterns of behaviour that go with relationships through. And I come back to our parents and our family situation is that first place we learn that. And so, you know, sometimes we have to go, is that really serving me still? And where did I get that? And am I willing to unlearn it? Because that's what it is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's also acknowledging it. Acknowledging it, is that mine, or is that theirs, or is that something else? Where has this come from, and what is it? I guess that's the best thing to be doing, is what actually is this, and how am I reacting to it? Or how am I?
True for me?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest questions in relationships. And, you know, you talked about your sister circles, and whether it's sister circles or men coming together in a space. A relationship is a space. And we have a relationship with ourselves. How are you connecting with yourself in that space? How are you bringing yourself into the space of your connection and your relationship and your relationships? Because it's not just about partner, husband, wife, kids, family. It's also about friendships and colleagues and clients and everyone else. What are you bringing to that space? Your shitty relationship patterns or your good ones?
Yeah, well, that's it. Do you know, like my hashtag, change the rhythm of your vibration. So how that came about was I was treating someone, and I don't know if it was in Bali or Nindri, it was somewhere, but I know that I remember being around everyone and we were talking about the dance and the vibration, and the whole shala was just, it was quiet, and there was just this pulse that we were in this whole, I've got goosebumps all over my body, the whole shala was just like, when we were in the middle of this energy, it was just circulating just in amongst all of us and all the bodies just treating. And that's chi, and it was just vital essence and energy in this one spot. It was just amazing. And we were talking, like Gwen would come in with different bits and pieces of philosophy as you're doing all of this. So it's all intertwining, and that it was just like, it's a dance. And he'd say something like, change the rhythm. And we change the rhythm, and we'd be doing something else, faster, slower, and then sync, stop, breathe. And for me, that's life. That's you change the rhythm of your vibration. You're holding on, you're grasping, you're stuck. So what do? You're going to shake it out. You'll go for a swim in the ocean, you go for a walk, you'll exercise, you'll sing, you'll dance, you'll do art, you'll write. There's all different facets of how we express ourselves, and that is, it will just come eventually. But once you know, then you're changing your vibration. It's just little bits at a time. If you're like insular in yourself, like grumpy, cranky, all the rest of it, all the other things, that's your vibration. That's what you're portraying. You're portraying that anger. You're portraying the sadness. And these are all very real things as well.
And I think when, you know, and it is very real, and when you come to relationship stuff, you know, it is very real when you bring yourself to, let's say, your partner, and you're feeling angry, frustrated, disappointed, sad, or whatever it might be, whether it's as a result of something that they may have done or said or whatever, their action, their choice of words or whatever has triggered something within you, and that's a gift. Because if that sadness, anger, frustration, disappointment, whatever wasn't there, you wouldn't feel it.
No.
So it's yours to feel. And so I think it's really important for a healthy relationship to be able to, you know, even if this is the key that people take out of this episode, is to be conscious and present to what you're bringing. and to give voice to it. You know, I know that my partner, the other, you know, I obviously had a death in my family last week, and he also experienced someone that he knows passing away last week as well. So we'd both kind of traveled that same journey at the same time. And last Friday, he messaged me and he said, "I don't think I can talk to you today." And I went, "That's okay." He said, I feel really sad, and my mood and my energy is really low, and I'd really rather just go within and really work on me and get myself into a better space." And I went, "Yep, cool." And I think I've had to learn in the past that would have triggered me to go, "Oh my God, they don't want to be with me. They don't want to, like, what have I done wrong?" Or, you know, that was my old relationship story. The reality is he feels safe enough to give voice to that with me, and I feel safe enough to give voice to what I need with him, and we both honour it and respect it.
Yeah, I know, like with some of the stuff that we've done together, it's like, what are your needs? What do you need? What can I help you with at this moment? It's just different ways of asking. Yeah, we can definitely take it on board as something more than what it actually needs to be as well. It just has to be I actually don't feel like talking to anyone at the moment, and I'll let you know when, you know, so just.
And even with, you know, people, and I'm bringing some real life examples in that I use, even with, you know, my morning coffee is sacred. My morning coffee is part of my sacred process for connecting to me and connecting to my day and setting my intention for how I want the day to flow. And if that gets interrupted, it creates a little bit of wobble in my flow, and my day doesn't quite, I have to kind of bring it back and do some more energy work to get it back to a space where it's, oh, okay, let's restart. And so my beautiful, amazing mum loves to chat first thing in the morning, and, you know, I'm staying with them at the moment. And she started having a conversation with me before I'd even had the first sip of coffee, and I went, "I'm sorry, I really need to not talk until after my coffee." And so I think, you know, for everyone out there, it's a small example, but the reality is we need to honour ourselves and be vulnerable and real enough to go, you know what, that's not what I need right now. Doesn't mean I don't love you, care for you, respect you, honour you. I need to honour me first.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Doesn't Oprah Winfrey say something like, isn't one of her quotes, be responsible for the energy you bring into this space? I think I just remember seeing that somewhere.
Yeah, she talks about, and that's one of my actual favourites. I'm responsible for the energy that I bring into my space, into my connections, into my relationships. I'm responsible for that. I'm also responsible for the energy I allow in my space.
That's a biggie, isn't it, that one?
Yeah. And so, you know, if you've got, you know, and I've got a couple of examples that are popping into mind, whether it's friends or clients or colleagues or, you know, even partner or family, right? Family's often our biggest challenge and our biggest area for growth. You know, where there might be an issue that's come up for you that's being triggered is a word that a lot of people use. It just means it's being brought up for your awareness and your transformation. I'm aware that I have a friend who is very, very much not present in conversations at times. And I'm aware that if I allow that, I end up frustrated. Because I feel like and feeling like I'm not heard, I'm not seen, I'm not valued. And so my job is to no longer allow it and to address it and to, be vulnerable enough to have a conversation that says, I value presence in my relationships and my connections. So it's really important, if we're going to connect and keep communicating, that you're present. And if you're not able to be, that's okay. I'd rather you honour that, and we'll talk at a time when you can be.
Yeah, that's it. Because you can look like you're present, that you're being very present because you're in that space. However, your mind is not there. You are way somewhere else. And that's when you're like, yep, okay, gotcha, yep, heard it, gone.
Sometimes it's not even being heard, right? Because people can, and when presence is being in the moment and being, seeing the other person and valuing them and honouring the fact that they're giving you their time and their energy and by being there. And when someone's in their head thinking about what to say next or what their own stuff is, they're not present with you. They're not honouring your time, your energy. And they often don't follow through with things as well. And so you've got to be present to when you're doing that as well, because, we all have the ability to do that. And and to acknowledge it and go, you know what, I'm aware in this conversation that I'm not being present with you. And I'm aware that means I'm not honouring you, I'm not respecting you, and I'm not valuing you.
Do you know what I do is, like, we'll have a conversation and then I'm like, right. So in my mind, I'm processing and I'm just still processing and I haven't actually answered. And it's like, well, the person who I've been speaking to is like, well, are you going to actually answer me or are you ignoring me? I'm like, oh, no, I'm back in my own conversation in my head processing it still. Whereas I should be verbalizing and saying, I'm actually thinking about this at the minute. Can you give me 10? Voice it. I'm not ignoring you. That's how I process stuff.
Exactly. And I really love that. And that's part of getting real. Because my beautiful niece does that and I can see her doing it. And people keep going at her and I'm like, hang on, just give her 5. She needs to process, And so being able to know and be conscious of your own processes and your own needs gives you the ability to come into that space and into all your relationships to go, here's who I am, here's what I value, here's what I need, here's how I work. Who are you? What do you value? What do you need? How do you work? Okay, well, how does this flow?
Yeah, it definitely would open up.
How can I honour you in that process, right?
Yeah, definitely open up the conversation, because not a lot of people would know that. They don't know. I didn't know that there was needs and values and all the things that have to be met for me first to then be able for me to share with other people. Like they're the things that we were speaking about earlier that you don't learn.
No.
Some people do. Some people
do. And so, you and I and probably many others that are listening or watching have an opportunity to really share and bring ourselves to that space and to honour ourselves and our own needs and wants and desires. And in doing so, we teach others how to do that.
And that's where the realness comes in as well, because you can act and be and say and do and be all the things, but unless you're being real and, the vulnerability in that realness, then people can see straight through it. And whether they're going to tell you straight up because they feel comfortable enough to do it, or eventually they'll find out anyway.
Yeah.
So that's just what it is. You might as well be who you are right from the beginning.
You can't be anyone else.
No.
And that's the truth, is that, you know, I don't know who says it, but, you know, there's a saying or a quote or something about, you know, you can't be anything other than you. Why would you want to be anyway? Because each and every one of us have been made uniquely ourselves. We've all got unique needs, wants, desires. We've all got a unique pathway to walk. And some people, some relationships will come onto our pathway for the whole journey, and some won't. Some will come onto the pathway and show us what fake looks like. Some will come on and show us what authentic looks like. And some people won't be able to handle your authentic. And they'll have to get off your path, right? And that's okay.
Yeah, I read something this morning, and it was something like souls will fall away as you're walking towards your soul path, and the trauma, they've been here as your lessons to the trauma. And then once the lessons are acknowledged and worked through, the karmic relationships and patterns, you then go into the next part of your soul's journey, where people who are aligned and that come back into your pathway.
Yeah.
So, and that's continuous.
Absolutely. And there's, you know, there's friends that I have that come on that, you know, I was talking to a friend that I've known since I was 14 on the weekend, and, you know, I know that she'll be on the entire journey, you know, and it doesn't matter if I see her or talk to her every week, it doesn't matter. Whereas others come on for a little bit, we might share and learn and grow a little bit, and then they'll go their own way, and then they might come back on, or they might just go. That's okay too. Yeah.
I mean, we've travelled the world, and that's what happens with relationships there as well, you know, who you travel with and you made friends with, and you've left and you've come back and so it's life.
That journey, right? How awesome is that? Being real and vulnerable, and, you know, life is vulnerable. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. No one does, and that's the truth. That's the realness.
Yeah.
You know, so enjoy the moment. Be who you are, because you can't be anyone else. And that's the right people will love you, and the wrong ones won't. So, thank you. We could talk all afternoon.
That's for sure.
Thank you for coming into this space and sharing your real self and a little bit about your journey, and just flowing with that conversation. And I hope those of you who are listening and watching get some insights or some aha moments for yourselves. If you're in a space where you are still trying to work out what the stories are and what's true for you and what's not, reach out to either Jules or myself if you feel drawn, and, you know, we can help you navigate that path and get real with you.
Paths, there's not just one.
You know, so yeah, thank you so much for coming online today. And can you share with people where they can connect with you if they'd like to learn more about the Zentai or sister circles or anything that you do?
Sure. My website is www.juliecardillo, say JuliCardillo.com. And the Instagram is Jules_rhythm of your vibration. And Facebook is just, it's Jules Cardillo. So, and then you'll see the hashtag rhythm of your vibration. So
So head on over and give Jules a like on Facebook, or join her on Instagram as well. For those of you who would like to connect with me further, jump on my website, thebarefootmedium.com.au, Facebook, Leanne the Barefoot Medium, and Instagram, YouTube, all of those places, Leanne the Barefoot Medium or the Barefoot Medium. Thank you all for joining us today, and for allowing us to have this real and raw conversation with you. And I hope that wherever you are, whoever you're with, whatever your journey looks like at the moment, that you are you, that you're real, and that you really allow yourself to connect with what you need, want, and desire in your life, and to be willing to give voice to that. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of Barefoot TV and Podcast Show. Bye guys.